I've lived alone most of my adult life. Not because I hated people, not because I was antisocial. It just happened that way. I worked nights, logistics, warehouse coordination, shipment schedules, the kind of job where the world is quiet while you're awake and loud while you sleep. By the time I came home, the city was already winding down. My building stood a little apart from the others. 9 floors, 1 elevator, concrete walls that held sound too well. I moved there because it was cheap, close to work, and forgettable. I wanted forgettable. Every night followed the same routine. I parked, I entered the lobby, I pressed the elevator button. I waited. The doors closed with the same dull sound. The cables hummed. The numbers climbed. For years, that was all it ever was. Until the elevator started stopping on my floor. At first, I didn't even register it as strange. The first time, I was already halfway down the hall when I heard the chime behind me. The doors were open. The light inside flickered. Empty. I assumed someone else had called it and changed their mind. It happens. I went inside and locked the door. The second night, it happened again. Same time. Same sound. This time, I was still awake. I stood in my kitchen, holding a glass of water, listening to the elevator climb. When it stopped, my chest tightened, for no reason I could explain. I waited. Nothing happened. No footsteps. No voices. When I finally opened my door, the hallway was empty. The elevator doors stood open, like they were waiting for someone who never came. I told myself it was just an old system, old building, old mechanics. I didn't know yet how wrong I was. After the second night, I started paying attention, not in a panicked way. More like the way you listen when you hear a strange noise in your car. You don't assume the worst, you just listen. The elevator kept stopping, always on my floor, always after midnight. Sometimes the doors opened, sometimes they didn't. On the third night, I stayed inside and watched the hallway through the peephole. The elevator stopped. The light outside flickered. The doors opened. Nothing stepped out. But I noticed something else. The doors stayed open longer than usual, as if the elevator was waiting. I felt stupid standing there, holding my breath in my own apartment. I stepped away and locked the door. That night, I dreamed about standing in the hallway. The elevator was open, and something inside it was breathing. A few days later, I ran into my neighbor from the 6th floor. His name was Mark. We weren't friends, just 2 people who recognized each other by habit. We passed each other in the stairwell. He stopped me. "Hey," he said, "can I ask you something?" I nodded. "Have you noticed the elevator acting weird lately?" I froze. I tried not to show it. "What do you mean?" I asked. Mark lowered his voice. "I keep hearing it stop at night," he said. "But when I look out, there's no one there." I forced a small laugh. "Old building," I said. "Probably a glitch." Mark didn't smile back. "Yeah," he said. "Probably." We stood there for a second longer than necessary. Then he walked away. That was the first time someone else confirmed it. I told myself it still didn't mean anything. People hear things, especially at night. That's when I realized this wasn't normal. After that, the story started spreading. Quietly. Someone on the 4th floor said they heard the elevator open and close, but never heard footsteps. Another neighbor said they heard something walking down the hallway, but the cameras showed nothing. One woman swore she heard the elevator stop, the doors open, and then something leave. Not walk. Leave. She said it sounded wrong, like weight being dragged instead of lifted. People relaxed during the day. They joked about it. They blamed stress. But at night, the building felt different. Heavier. The thing started coming out more often. Not every night, but often enough that I stopped sleeping normally. Sometimes I heard it on my floor, sometimes above me, sometimes below. Slow movement, careful, like it was learning the layout. One night, I heard it stop on the 8th floor. The elevator doors opened. I waited for footsteps. None came. Then, minutes later, I heard something moving on the stairs. Not fast, not loud. Slow, dragging. I pressed my ear to the door. I could hear breathing. Not panicked, not tired. Curious. I pulled back from the door. I didn't sleep at all that night. A week later, someone disappeared. Not quietly. Not like moving out. The police came early in the morning. An apartment on the 5th floor. The door was open. There was blood in the hallway. And there were marks on the floor. Long streaks. Leading toward the elevator. The elevator doors were closed. The police asked questions. They checked the cameras. They didn't find anything useful. That night, the elevator stopped again. On my floor, I was already awake. I stood in my dark apartment and listened. The doors opened. And this time, I heard it step out. One sound, then another. Barely audible, like something trying not to be heard. I didn't look through the peephole. I didn't move. I just stood there, counting my breaths. After a long time, the elevator doors closed, but the footsteps stayed. They moved down the hallway. Slow, patient. Then they stopped. Right outside my door. After that night, I stopped pretending this was coincidence. I stopped trying to explain it. I started listening. The elevator didn't just stop anymore. It stayed. Some nights it would stop on my floor and remain there for 10 minutes. Sometimes longer. The doors didn't always open. But when they did, I could hear it. Not footsteps. Something heavier. Something that shifted its weight slowly, as if it wasn't meant to stand upright for long. People began hearing it on different floors. Someone on the 2nd floor said they heard the elevator open, then close, and then something walking away. Not toward the stairs, away from the elevator. Someone on the 8th floor said they heard something breathing outside their door, but when they looked, the hallway was empty. No one wanted to talk about it openly. During the day, people smiled. They joked. They said stress makes you imagine things. At night, doors stayed locked. Lights stayed on. I learned something important during that time. The thing didn't rush. It didn't chase. It explored. Some nights it would stop on the 3rd floor. Other nights the 6th. Sometimes it skipped floors entirely. But it always returned, and it always came back to mine. I started keeping notes, times, sounds, patterns. The elevator stopped more often when the building was quiet, later than usual, after most people were asleep. It stayed longer when someone was awake. I don't know how I knew that. I just felt it. The cameras didn't help. They never showed it. But they showed something else. Empty hallways, doors opening on their own, lights flickering when the elevator arrived. One night, I watched the monitor as the elevator stopped on the 7th floor. The doors opened. The hallway camera showed nothing. Then, slowly, the camera shook, as if something passed too close. The footage glitched. When it came back, the hallway was empty again. But the timestamp jumped forward. Always a few seconds missing. Always the same. People started disappearing faster. Not whole families. Not crowds. Individuals. Someone who lived alone. Someone who worked nights. Someone who answered the elevator when it stopped. The police came more often. They asked questions. They never stayed long. They didn't like the building. I heard one of them say that out loud. The rule became clear after the fourth disappearance. A man from the 10th floor. He told someone earlier that day that he saw it. He said the elevator opened, and he looked inside. He said he saw something crouched in the corner, listening. That night, he was gone. After that, no one looked. We learned to keep our eyes down, to step back, to pretend the elevator wasn't there. One night, it didn't stop. It arrived. The elevator stopped on my floor. The doors opened, and I heard it step out. Slow. Deliberate. The sound didn't come from the elevator anymore. It came from the hallway. Closer. I stood in my apartment, frozen. The breathing was louder than before. Not rushed, not angry. Patient. I pulled back from the door. I counted my breaths. I didn't move. After a long time, I heard it leave, not return to the elevator. Walk away. That was the night I packed a bag. They sealed the basement a week later. Concrete, metal supports, police presence. They said it was for safety. They said it was over. People relaxed. Some even smiled again. I moved out 2 days later. I live somewhere else now. Different city, different building, different elevator. For a while, everything was normal. No strange stops. No late-night sounds. I slept again. Until last night. I stepped into the elevator, pressed my floor. The doors closed. The elevator moved, then slowed, then stopped. Too early. The lights flickered. I heard something shift behind me. Breathing. Close. I didn't turn around. I stared at the floor. The elevator started moving again. When the doors finally opened, I ran. I don't know how long I can keep doing this, because some things don't stay in buildings. They learn people. They follow patterns. And every night, somewhere, someone forgets to look away.